Hey folks, MasakoX here. So this particular scenario came about off of the back of one of our roundtable live streams, and courtesy of Bryant Grier. Bryant asked us what could occur had Broly gotten the chance to learn about the ways of the angels and Beerus, and would ultimately lead to him becoming the replacement of that cat. Would the Dragonball Super iteration of Broly, the better one, be someone that could easily be an improvement to the original feline felon, and choose not to destroy things based on their culinary foul-ups? Would his mind have been at least much less clouded and chaotic? And also, would he ever find out the truth behind his, acquisition? In the last part, we chose to undertake something that, whilst it wasn't exactly the most plausible occurrence going out there in Dragon Ball, it's certainly within the realms of possibility. It can easily happen, especially given how open-ended the power set of Whis actually is. There are still things about his power set that we don't know about to this day, nearly 10 years since we first met the character. And we'll probably never know, as that allows the writers to give Whis whatever powers and skills that they want, with minimal frustration or pestering from the fandom. Oh, angels? They can do anything. Keep them in the dark. Whis used this freedom to great effect by choosing to investigate Vampa and Broly in his downtime without being seen or sensed by Paragus. He did eventually meet the pair in person, and was interested to see what the young Saiyan could do, and give the father a sense of purpose, and something to do for the good of the universe. However, as you remember, Paragus' time on Vampa had basically turned him into everything that he had despised on planet Vegeta, and about why his son was here on Vampa in the first place. He had come to view his own son, like everyone else, as essentially a beast. And we saw that and didn't like it. He didn't want a Super Saiyan dog, he wanted a Super Saiyan God! By the way, the people in the comments that came up with that moniker, very, very good. Ultimately, because of this, Whis took Broly away for his own training, and as for Paragus, what was his punishment? He had his mind wiped of Broly, as well as the reason for being on Vampa in the first place. So, he was doomed to solitude for the rest of his life for daring to anger the higher-ups. So okay, let's resume and find out what could go down with Broly now in the care of Whis. Now already, I hear you all out there lamenting this choice, that Whis would never do such a thing as take away Broly from Paragus. You see, Whis isn't your average mortal with a traditional set of morals and values. Yes, they want to see order and harmony within their realm, but the angels will do anything and go to any lengths in which to achieve that. And if that means stripping a father away from his boy after he had welched on their initial deal, then so be it. Smiter's gonna get smoked. And besides, I can't wait to meet Ian Sinclair again and we can geek out about Whis and discuss why this is totally plausible. And would Whis feel bad about it? Well, Whis isn't one for conventional emotion, especially at this point in the story, before Goku showed up to muddy the waters and change their way of thinking at least a little bit. So for now, Broly will never know about what happened to his father. Not the truth, that is. Broly was told that Paragus straight up abandoned him and that Whis had no choice but to take him in after having been discarded by his own papa. Broly was initially upset about this, I mean, you would be. But the serene atmosphere of this new home did wonders for his overall state of mind, and thusly proved to be just the ticket in which to eventually get over this betrayal. If Broly hated what his father had done, at least what he was told, why would he ever go look for him? And, as Whis pointed out to himself, Paragus isn't exactly going to be looking for Broly since he can't remember who Broly is. Whis nodded to himself that this was the perfect plan. But with Beerus still asleep and not likely to wake up for a while, Whis was the primary caretaker for this youngling. Broly did inquire as to the whereabouts of Beerus, and Whis chose to be honest since it was clear that Paragus had been very lackluster when it came to being open with his former son. And hey, Whis, honesty. You see, Lord Beerus is rather unorthodox destroyer. A typical example would be very busy, ensuring the stability and the balance of our universe across it. Lord Beerus is not like those examples. Instead, he sleeps in for long periods of time, usually centuries, until he wakes up and goes about making up for lost time, making mistakes along the way. And, bizarre excuses for destroying planets, which had usually corrected their previous errors in the interim. Oh dear. Broly looked rather disappointed and concerned at this.
Centuries? But I might be dead by the time he wakes up. Well, what's the point of me being here?
Think not that sentiment, Broly. Lord Beerus shall awaken during your lifetime. There is an important reminder left for him to do so. You shall meet him one day. The training that Whis and Broly undertook was pretty much more of the same that Broly had witnessed whilst the Angel was testing him back on Vampa. Only this time, it had more to it, with further feedback from Whis, and the gains were much quicker. Broly asked that if he would eventually become so strong that Whis would actually have to fight back, fight seriously, go on the offense. Instead of doing his usual stuff of just dodging the Saiyan's attacks or poking him with a staff, Whis though looked a little apprehensive. Yes, well the truthful answer is, not likely. And if by some fluke you did cause me to fight seriously, well, the Cosmos might have something to say about that. Whis looked up to the sky with a rather serious expression, like he didn't want that to happen. Broly looked up too, but despite Whis looking nervous at this prospect, Broly was still determined to make Whis fight with everything that he got, eventually. Even if it took him all his life to achieve it, he will do it, dang it! Now when it came to his education, Whis felt that the best type of training in that particular field was to take Broly along sometimes with him on his usual duties of overseeing the universe and taking some notes for Beerus once he would eventually wake up and make up for lost time. On these expeditions, Broly got to see many things and experience many different cultures. He felt very learned after all of that. But then one day, a brainwave hit Broly.
Hey, Mr. Whis?
Said the Saiyan. Whis looked down in readiness for the inquiry, whilst they were having a quick bite to eat on one merchant planet that Whis liked the look of.
Paragus told me about Lord Frieza, that he was an evil monster, the strongest being in the galaxy.
Whis noted the fact that Broly had grown so accustomed to his lot in life that he had willingly chosen not to refer to Paragus as his father anymore, without prompting. Good, the Angel thought. Made things a little easier.
How strong is Frieza, compared to you?
Whis took a sip of his drink and let out a mild chuckle. My boy, he is but a drink of tea in this cup I am drinking. He showed the aforementioned speck of leaf to Broly in the cup. You see, he is but something that could get stuck in my teeth. Nothing of consequence. Broly was astounded.
Then, what does that make me?
Whis casually tucked into his food, not taking into account the fact that he was eating with his mouth open whilst describing this. Oh, you could probably take him down if you wanted by now. Your training is unlike anything mortals have acquired by themselves. Broly was just floored. Really? He could take down Frieza right now? Broly looked determined.
Well then why don't I do that? I can take him down, like you said. Then the galaxy will be free of his tyranny. What do you say, Mr. Whis?
Whis put down his cutlery and gave Broly a stern look after gulping down his food. No. Broly was confused.
But aren't angels supposed to be good?
Whis sighed. It's complicated, Broly. Lord Beerus and I's job is to ensure that everything goes by as smoothly as possible. Granted, I would love it if Lord Beerus were a little more stable in his actions and more consistent with his sleep schedule, but we managed to get by. Frieza's place within this universe is locked, and only mortal means can topple him from his perch. Broly stood up, still looking focused.
I'm mortal! I can do it!
Whis shook his head. Not in the traditional sense. You are marked for greater things, Broly. Things from on high. Frieza already is nothing to you. Think not of him and your Saiyan ties. They matter not. Broly wanted to rail against this, but what we said made sense. If Broly was already stronger than Frieza at this state, just imagine what he would be like in a few years' time, when he was all grown up. Such a shame that his dad had dumped him like that. He didn't know what he would have been missing. He probably would have been proud, had he not turned out to be a jerk. Broly sat back down and Whis smiled. I appreciate you having a good head on your shoulders, but if you are to fully excel at your studies, you need to learn how to attain perfect balance. No one soul rules alone, no matter how strong they are. There are always other pieces of the puzzle that could spell discord if not put in the right place, or worse, are absent. Broly processed this impromptu lesson and parable and slowly went back to his food, doing his best to take in what Whis had just said. This relationship and dynamic continues for quite some time, until one day, when Whis sensed something go down in the mortal realm. On the divine grapevine, word had gotten around that Frieza had been slain, on top of having just been defeated. Naturally, this caught Whis' attention, and he chose to investigate using his staff. Whilst perusing his orb on a stick, Broly, now all grown up, asked Whis what the matter was. It was very rare for Whis to be this deep in thought. With no food in sight, Whis chose to indulge Broly's curiosity. At least a little bit. "You see, Broly, remember that Lord Frieza fellow?" Broly nodded. "You remember how I said that mortal matters would determine his ultimate fate?" Broly nodded again. "Well, that happened. Frieza is dead. I have heard the news from my contacts at the Otherworld check-in station. He's just been processed." Broly was surprised, to say the least. "Really? Who did it? Who killed him?" Whis was quite bemused himself, but explained. "Well, the person who finally offed him was someone not where they should be. Naughty, naughty. I'll have to get Krenor on that one. But the person who initially defeated him, toppled him off his perch, was a Saiyan, just like you." Broly was fascinated. "More Saiyans survived Planet Vegeta's destruction?" "Indeed. This one transformed into the supposed Super Saiyan of legend, and yet his power is nothing in comparison to yours." Broly looked to his hands. He then saw the image of Goku on the orb, with golden hair. His hair couldn't do that. Whis then continued. "I completely forgot Saiyans could do that. It's been thousands of years since the last one did that. I think this could be of good use to you, Broly. What say you that we try and figure out how to do it ourselves? Should make things a little more fun, right?" He smiled his angelic smile as Broly looked very excited. This was a different kind of training, and this Saiyan could get so strong as to best Frieza. Just imagine the gains that he himself could get when perfected, and he could make his hair gold too. And with Whis' aid, Broly indeed just did that. Because remember, Whis is very smart. It goes without saying that the Super Saiyan transformation was much more effective than the Ikari powers that Whis had unearthed, naturally discovered whilst training Broly in the years that he had been on this world, thusly proving Whis' point that Broly was worth having around. And with Whis' assistance, this gain in power was much more straightforward than it had been with Goku and the other mortals that would dare get close to it. The sight of Super Saiyan Broly was breathtaking. Not to mention the power jump. Whis asked Broly to fight him with everything that he had, in Super Saiyan, to which Broly obliged. Whis took it all in. This increase in every single aspect of Broly's capabilities was incredible. Now that his mind had been jogged with the rediscovery of the Super Saiyan power, this could lead to the Super Saiyan God being right around the corner. Might it be an idea to wake Beerus up earlier than he had planned and present Broly to him? Not yet, Whis thought. He felt that this power had more to give. He needed to refine it before daring to wake his master up. He knew how cranky the cat would be if he'd been woken up for something rather inferior. Whis had to make sure. For now though, Whis also kept watch of Goku's development too. Whilst Goku's power was minuscule compared to he and Broly, the fact that a Saiyan was able to gain that strength so quickly, without divine intervention, was something to take note of. Broly was also thinking about Goku. Could this be something that Whis talked about in action? Something that was causing the balance of the universe to skew? Shift? Could this Goku turn out to be worse than Frieza, he thought? Broly knew nothing, of course, as to the context of Goku's actions. That he was acting for the betterment of mortal kind. All that Broly knew about him was the fact that he was a Super Saiyan and had killed Frieza. He could have done it for any reason. That was all he knew. For all that Broly had comprehended, Goku could have done it out of bravado, or, like the younger Broly thought, to see if he could. Broly wasn't sure about this guy. He felt like he needed to stop this Goku. That was his gut reaction. But Whis would never go along with this. Right now, Goku was of interest to him. Wait, was this jealousy in action as well? Was Broly getting jealous of Goku for stealing Whis' attention like that? Oh dear, Whis. This is the part about mortal life I don't think you quite get. Jealousy. Despite trying to understand emotion as part of gaining Super Saiyan, Whis had a very superficial view of it. This feeling carried on for a long time still. Broly had been tempted to go and find this Goku himself, properly suss him out for his master. But Whis would never agree to that. Besides, how would Broly get to Goku? He couldn't fly there. Beerus' world was far away from everything. Broly would die of old age before he even got to the next waypoint. However, he was about to get some good news. Whis felt like the time was ready to wake Beerus. All right, Broly, sit down here and I shall wake Lord Beerus. Don't be startled if you find objects being hurled your way. Beerus is rather crotchety when awoken. Broly sat down on the table and did what he was told. A few minutes later, and after many, many loud noises, Broly could hear utterances and expletives from a different voice. Was that Lord Beerus? Broly steeled himself up for the arrival of an imposing destroyer, something that he'd been told for decades that was frightful. But instead, he saw a cat in pajamas and looking very haggard to boot. However, when their eyes met, Beerus' face contorted to a rather satisfied smirk. So then, you must be my supposed Super Saiyan God. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. If you like the story of Broly becoming something more, check out this story here where the OG version of him turned good. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!